嗨，大家好，是美国大学梦American College Dream. Today we have our guest, Charles. He originally graduated from UC Berkeley, and I have him to for interview for some of the experience that he had in the past. So this has been a while, so I assume Charles is anxious to share everything he knows about his dream school and his his school that he graduated from, right? So much
Yeah,
in talk about Berkeley around the world. So everybody know UC Berkeley is one of the best STEM program in the world in the United States. And so we really looking forward to tonight's interview. So maybe Charles, could you give yourself just a little introduction to our guest?
yeah. So I'm Charles. Thanks for having me. I went to UC Berkeley about what is that, almost 10 years ago,
Okay.
and spent 4 years there. I what was it? I did my undergraduate career there. I got a degree in electrical engineering and computer science with a minor in physics, and yeah, it was very helpful for my career.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for coming to the program. So maybe you can start out with telling us about the location and neighborhood in the city, this lovely city of Berkeley that you spent 4 or 5 years there.
Yeah, spent 4 years there. So Berkeley definitely has some very nice parts, especially in the hills. You can get very nice views of the San Francisco Bay, and it is very convenient because it is very convenient to get to San Francisco from Berkeley. There is the BART. It's like a high speed, well, not high speed, but it's like a train station. It can get you from downtown Berkeley to San Francisco in 10-20 minutes, and
Wow, quite quick.
definitely have a lot of opportunities to have to visit San Francisco on the weekend and enjoy the Bay Area to its fullest.
Mhm. When I visit Berkeley, some people tell me this is where the hippie was in 1970s, right? So there's some areas a little bit of, like still is it still occupied by kind of hippies or not today? I haven't been there for 20, 30 years now.
There are certainly, let's call them characters around the campus,
Okay.
people who are perhaps a little bit stranger than your usual um, inhabitants. And there are certainly areas where there are a lot of homeless people. That is an unfortunate side effect. I believe the city is trying very hard to build more housing to solve that. But I think just like everywhere else, there is a kind of a emerging crisis with affordable housing in Berkeley, and you definitely see its impacts on with more homeless people there. So that is to be a consideration.
I guess in any urban area or like metropolitan, like in UCLA or Yale's, all this big city or USC, you're gonna find a lot of this kind of mixtures of different things, right? One would be like a school area, but then there was also another area that's not quite school area, and you have all kinds of people that kind of, just kind of hang out there, right?
Yeah, Berkeley does a good job of like not trying to kind of fence you into the campus too much. So you have a lot of opportunity to kind of go off campus and see things that are not perhaps quite so cut and clean and so on.
Hmm.
So it gives you a nice, it kind of keeps you grounded a little bit more, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah. And you say Berkeley is kind of like a hilly, right? So like, I went to UCLA. So UCLA, it's not quite hilly. It's a little bit of slope, but it's not, I would not describe it as a hill. But I guess in your case, Berkeley, it's a hill. Is it true?
There's several hills, yeah, especially in engineering sections. I remember my computer science buildings, they're actually if you go from the west side, you enter on the third floor, and if you enter from the east side, you enter on the fourth floor.
Yeah.
So that
So that
gives you an idea
remind
of how
you
dramatic the
that
hills
remind
are.
you about the Chongqing in China, right? So in Chongqing City, like you have all this different floor, and they all have different entrances. And you can enter this building from different floor because of this, this up and down.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never been, but that sounds like what the Berkeley experience is.
Actually, that's the same in UCLA. The UCLA's engineering building also have like entrances at first floor, at the like a fourth or third floor, and so it's a little bit of hill too. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Both school actually are sharing something quite similar.
I think they want to make sure their engineering students are fit, they're in shape, so they make sure that if you walk from your dorm to your class, you're gonna get a little bit of workout in.
And I heard you're a climber, right? You like rock climbing?
I do climb, yeah, and I've heard that recently they're opening a new rock climbing gym just like 2 blocks out of south of the Berkeley campus. So
like an
that's also nice
indoor climbing.
Indoor rock climbing, yes.
Okay, well that's always a big plus. Not a big plus, a good plus, I guess. Yeah. So
it's a fun hobby to get into, yeah.
Yeah, actually, my daughter is also getting into the rock climbing, and I personally really enjoy rock climbing. It's really, really good for the midsection.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So that's maybe a little bit of like a schools, like restaurants and the campers. So to be a STEM student, just starting in Berkeley. What kind of eating option do they have, and would they be satisfied compared with Chinese food? I guess a lot of audience would be like people that speak Chinese, and maybe from China or from Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and maybe U.S. and Canada. But it's a lot of Chinese.
I believe there's quite a few Chinese restaurants, and some of them are kind of known for being pretty cheap and being pretty good value proposition. I remember back 10 years ago that there was one Chinese restaurant right next to the computer science building, and they had like $5 wonton soups. So
oh wow,
you definitely will find good food there. That I can promise you.
With the inflation, probably goes up a little bit though, right?
Probably, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how about the faculty? So I guess every school's faculty is kind of the value added items to the student. How did you find the faculty being helpful, and are they available when you wanted to ask questions, and they are they do have time to spend with you? I mean, so just what do you think?
Yeah. So I think the faculty is for Berkeley, especially for electrical engineering and computer science, I would say it's world-class faculty. But they're more world-class for the research and that they do, and less so for their teaching styles. Although we certainly have many good professors. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at like in terms of how to get the most value out of the world-class faculty, I would say something like trying to do research as an undergraduate. That would be how you get the most value out of that faculty. And in terms of the undergraduate research opportunities, there are many opportunities, and there won't be handed to you. You definitely have to kind of actively search out, look for them, email professors, follow up. It's a bit of a process, but they are there, and you will be doing very, very advanced research for faculties. In terms of the coursework, they still make themselves available. The faculties for engineering classes, they still hold their regular office hours. I would say that for the introductory courses, the first year, second year courses, most of your coursework help comes from the teaching assistants and less so from the faculty, just because the teaching assistants, there are more of them, and they're more available, and their time slots are more easily accessible. And it's also helpful because a lot of them have, they're either graduate students who are closer to your age, and they can understand things at your level a little bit easier, or they're undergraduates who are very advanced in their courses and they're helping out with teaching, and then sometimes they're even better than the graduate students because they can more easily relate to the coursework because they took it themselves. So yeah, the faculty is world class, and you definitely have a lot of teaching support from the course staff to help you with your courses.
So it sounds like Charles is very confident, and I can't really stop him. It's like a train coming out, can't stop him from talking. He's talking about the world-class Berkeley faculty, and I'm sure, he's so confident, and after this 10 years, you can see that, that program really has done well for him. But sounds like it's a research university, so the TA is more available, and then the professor does need to do some research, so the availability may not be as available as TA. Is that true in your opinion?
I would say the professor is still available. They still hold weekly office hours, so probably 2 office hours a week, which is kind of similar to how each individual TA holds office hours. Each individual TA has something like 2-3 office hours a week. It's just that there are much more TAs and way less professors. And in my opinion, it's the teaching assistants and teaching, the course staff, they know almost as much as the professor when it comes to the course material. So it's just more convenient to visit the TAs at times than the professors. Unless, of course, it's a question of grading and logistics, then sometimes you have to go to the professor. But if it's just looking for help with the coursework or with the lab or with trying to understand the material, the TAs can be very, very effective.
So you mentioned they may have some undergraduate research work. Does it require some kind of GPA to have that entrance, to overcome that barrier? Or do you think it's as long as you ask, and actually it's not that hard to find that opportunity, regardless of your GPA?
That one, it's harder to say. It's not a very regulated system. It's more of each professor, depending on what their current projects are, depending on how they're feeling, depending on the funding levels, they might have opportunities, and each professor would do it slightly differently. I believe some of the programs, they have a more streamlined process where they allow professors to post like, oh, I have this position open for this research opportunity or for this research project. I'm looking for students, who have this background and are interested in why. So there's some of that, but I think the majority of students who do find research end up just kind of doing it on their own. They check the listings, or not listings, they check the professors, they see which professor have research interests that match up with their interests, and then they actively go and talk to those professors, email them, maybe take a class with that professor, and because usually professors teach the course material that they like to talk about, and it's tied to their research. So sometimes, if they're looking for more undergraduate help, they might kind of slip in like, oh, by the way, if you enjoy this, talk to my undergrad or talk to my my grad students. Sometimes TAs, if they're graduate student TAs, sometimes they could be interested. It's all about taking initiative, looking for opportunities, and kind of actively searching them out. If you do that, you'll definitely find something.
So it sounds like it's not a very rigid process. It just kind of depends on which professor. You got to keep an eye on it, and maybe go and take the classes from that professor if you're interested in finding a research opportunity with him, right?
Yeah.
So we have probably a lot of students that could be in high school and looking to get into the UC Berkeley STEM program. So in your opinion, if you are making a recommendation for the freshman high school or junior, or just a high school student that are preparing to get into UC Berkeley STEM program, what would you say to them? Like, what kind of class should they be taking? Do they need to take a lot of AP, or do they need to do really well, like a lot of 5 in AP physics and AP calculus? And what would you recommend to them?
So there is one track. So for California high school students, I believe there are certain requirements in terms of you have to take X amount of foreign language, you have to do some amount of English. That I will let them research on their own. I think, or they can look it online, or they can find a guidance counselor. That I will not talk too much about, because my information is way more out of date than what the guidance counselor can help them with. So for the coursework, I would just say apart from the California high school students where there are certain kind of requirements or very highly recommended courses that their guidance kind of can help them with. Apart from that, I would focus on, for engineering, it's always helpful to have some AP physics or a little bit of AP calculus. Those are good APs to take. They are less helpful with, or I don't know how much help they are with the admission, but it's helpful to arrive in Berkeley with those understanding, because then you might find your introductory classes a little easier, and you might have an easier time kind of acclimating to the fast-paced nature of college studies, because it is much faster than high school experience. As in terms, so in terms of preparing for the application as a freshman, I mean, for freshman and junior, it's a little bit different. For junior, this is kind of, if you're starting out as a junior, this is really the time to start thinking about, I would say, preparing your application, because as a starting junior, you basically essentially have 9 more months until the summer starts, and then the application opens, and you really have to start actually filling your application. So for a junior, it's kind of like your last chance. So I would do things of like, just try to, if you can, find projects to work on your own. That is good, because that shows like you're passionate, and it also gives you exposure, and it helps you kind of understand what it is you're signing up for, essentially. So my recommendation for high school juniors is essentially boiled down to, if you can, find a project to work on, something that's related. And if you can't, then I would just say, just try to challenge yourself to do, just, try to challenge yourself a little bit. And while that might not directly help your admission process, it does kind of help you grow a bit as a person, and that's always helpful for admissions. For freshmen, this is on the opposite side of the spectrum, where it's too far away. It's very hard to say what will help, what will not. And my tips, my recommendation would be mostly just kind of try to figure out which major you want to, which major or field of study you find yourself liking the most. And if you find that you're liking it, like let's say you find your physics class or your math class or your English class really interesting, see if you can do a little bit more. Just not necessarily do it for the admission, just kind of like see if it's something you enjoy, and then try to see if you can go a little bit beyond just what the curriculum tells you to do. Maybe do like a science project, or do some extra readings of books that inspire you. Just it's helpful to do a little bit more. And
so are you speaking in terms of admission, if you show that it would be a little easier to get into, or you talking that in terms of when you get into the Berkeley STEM program, then you will be actually having a little easy time because you have done all that? Which aspect?
I would say it's more for admissions. It's more for admissions. It's mostly just, it's good to show that you're challenging yourself and you're pushing yourself. And that is helpful to just basically become a better person. So that's essentially my advice. Just
how would the admission find out that you actually did something extra? How do you put yourself out there and let them know that? In the essay or what?
It's something you could highlight in your personal statement. It's something that, let's say, if you did it with a teacher at high school, then they can perhaps comment on it in your in their recommendation letter. But it's definitely, yes, admission is a bit of what's it called? It's where you practice how to market yourself. That is basically what admission boils down to. Is how well do you market yourself as a highly accomplished, highly passionate, highly driven individual. And the more kind of evidence you have to back that up, the easier that process is.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually hear a little bit of feedback. Can you maybe reduce the volume a little bit? See if the feedback would actually reduce a little bit. I can hear the humming. You hear that?
I'm sorry. That is my laundry going.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's okay then. Yeah. So maybe tell us a little bit about what does UC UC Berkeley STEM, what admission officer are looking for in a high school student? Are they looking like the GPA, of course, and AP tests, and then your personal statement, and then I don't think the recommendation is needed in UC Berkeley, right? Is that true?
Back when I applied 10 years ago, I think I still submitted a couple of recommendation letters.
Oh, you
Things
did?
might have changed, of course, but that is how I remember it.
Yeah.
I would say for applications, I think of it as there's two sides of the application. One side is the numbers in terms of your GPA, your AP scores, your credits, etc. And the one side is kind of like the less quantifiable things in terms of like your personal statement, your recommendation letters, and so on. GPAs, your numbers, obviously you want them as high as you can. With the caveat, of course, you don't want to like spend so much time that you completely neglect the other side of the equation.
Sure.
As for the personal statement and the recommendations, this is more about kind of, it's a question of how do you see yourself and how do your others see yourself, right? That's the recommendation letter is about how your teachers perceive you, and your personal statement is about how you perceive yourself. And that is, again, it's just about being very good at trying to present yourself as a very driven, very ambitious person, very passionate. And if you do that consistently in high school, like you keep pushing yourself to be challenged, you do a lot of things that where you can back up and say, yes, I did this, and this shows why I'm ambitious, then you're a good teacher will notice that and will back that up in their recommendation, and it'll just come out as a very well thought out application where it's like, yes, they see themselves as this, and their teacher also sees themselves as this. So it'll help really solidify that, this is a high achieving individual.
So from just the way you talk, seems like you really push yourself out of the comfort zone and try really hard in high school. And so certainly get the inspiration to a lot of our audiences here. So could you talk a little bit about like, different department, different majors in STEM program in UC Berkeley, not just the program that you enter, but other program as well. Maybe you don't know as well about those, but just give us a flavor of what you think about different programs.
So as I understand it, within the STEM subfields, it essentially breaks down to 3 colleges. There's the College of Engineering, which I went to. This is kind of like your mechanical engineering, your chemical engineering, your electrical engineering. There's the College of Chemistry, because which is more focused on the chemistry side of things, and I've heard that they're a little more intense. It's a very difficult major, or very difficult fields. And then there is the College of Letters and Sciences, which covers math, any physics, any like non-applied sciences would go under there. So it kind of boils down to these 3 colleges. And while each major is of course different, within these 3 colleges, there are certain rules that have to be followed, and they kind of have their own various administration. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about this other than there are these majors.
So I heard that the UC Berkeley STEM program, the computer science, is really a very impactful program. So it's really very difficult to get into, and a lot of competition. And so I just want to confirm whether you agree with that or not among all the programs in STEM in UC Berkeley.
Yes, so that is a reflection of how declaring major works. So as I mentioned previously, there is the College of Engineering and there's the College of Letters and Sciences. So for a computer science student, they are under the College of Letters and Sciences, and the way application works for them is that when you apply to Berkeley, you specify which college you want to go into, either engineering, letters and sciences, chemistry, etc. And if you apply to College of Engineering, you declare your major, you say which major you want to apply to, and when you're admitted, you are declared that major automatically, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you're in the College of Letters and Sciences, you can only say your preferred major, and you're not declared, even if you're admitted, you're not declared that major. And what they have done recently is that because CS is a very popular major, the requirements to declare as a CS major have been increasing over time. When I was there, used to be there was a GPA requirement. You had to take 4 introductory CS courses and get something like a 3.0 GPA average across those classes. In the 4 years I was there, that was raised to a 3.33 requirement. So they are making that slightly more difficult, and that is why there's a lot of stress, and there's people have this idea that CS is kind of a harder major to get into. Fortunately, your grades is for introductory classes especially is not as determined by how other people do. Just because everyone, you're not really competing with people, you're more just competing with yourself to understand the material at a level that the professor is satisfied with. So I wouldn't worry about the competition, just worry about doing your best and trying to understand the material at a high level.
Okay. So you mentioned the College of Engineering, College of Chemistry, and then College of Computer Science. Is that what you're saying?
College of Letters and Sciences. Computer science by itself falls into the Letters and Sciences. There is electrical engineering and computer science, which is a separate major, which is under the College of Engineering, which is what I did. So I didn't have the issue of trying to declare a major when I worked in undergrad.
Okay. We only have about like 5 minutes left, and so I mean, with so many things that we can ask Charles about, but I guess the time is limiting us. So in your STEM program in UC Berkeley, are there any hands-on project that you work on, or like you go to the laboratory and then you build your own things, and you know, you build a surfboard, you build some kind of circuit, you build some kind of transmitter, or something that you build that you kind of remember a lot, something like that?
Yeah. So in the circuits class, we definitely did a lot of breadboarding and a lot of circuits. Unfortunately, I don't remember all of them. I was less on the circuit side and more on the transistor physics side, which unfortunately does not lend itself well to hands-on demonstrations. I did remember that we had a solar car team in Berkeley, which is open to everyone, or all the engineers at least. And we did, and then I remember.
You say you didn't know that. You didn't know there was a solar club.
No, I was part of the solar car team.
Oh, you were part of it. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to and then we in particular got the chance to help assemble the solar panel array for the cars. That was pretty interesting.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah. In our school, high school, Pacific Academy, we also have solar club, and they will be racing from Texas for 7 days to California, Palmdale, in July.
Yep. Yep. We were probably part of that same race. And
okay. So
you get the chance to go.
Did you race there too? The same route?
I don't know if it's the same route. I know that they did a race, and this was very long ago. But I definitely remember we went racing.
Okay. So in the STEM program of Berkeley, what do you think that the Berkeley has done well in terms of preparing the student or yourself to be ready for the industry, to find a job that they can, to build on their strengths and build on their interests and to expand their passion? Do you find Berkeley has done a good, good job with that?
Yeah, I think one thing Berkeley does pretty well is that they really force you to focus on understanding the material at a very in-depth level, and all the assignments, all the tests, they are pretty tricky. They require a lot of thought to give it. You guys spend a lot of time thinking about it, and many times collaborating with others to kind of work together to find a solution. And so just the way the courses are structured and the way the expectations from the professors, it's very helpful for pushing you to understand things on a deeper level. And on top of that, because I did research, I was forced to kind of take the initiative and kind of actively search out for opportunities. And that's also another very helpful trait for careers, is just being proactive and trying to make things happen on your own. So those are probably some of the more impactful ways that Berkeley is good as an undergrad in education.
So having a good attitude of learning and just be, always be ready to challenge yourself. So
exactly.
We have about two minutes left. Are there anything that you recall yourself that you wish you have done more of that, and then today you would be, someone that you think you'll be, even stronger than who you have become? So tell us something like that. I mean, it's a little kind of like a regret that you wish you have done more. But if you look honestly to yourself and say, well, I wish I had done this, then I would have been different today. Is there something like that?
I'll probably say spend more time outside lab and just kind of enjoy the time I got to spend there. I was definitely very focused on the academics, on the career. So I did not have spent as much time outside the lab as I should have. So I'll probably say that would be something that going back, I probably would have done.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Well, our time is quickly running out, and we want to thank Charles for joining us. I know his time is very precious, and I'm sure that a lot of audience will find his feedback and his comments to be useful. And then thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Okay, and well, bye-bye now.